old man bought a small stone cottage for $2,000, but what he found inside changed his life forever. Arthur always liked old places, so when he saw a tiny stone cottage for such a low price, he decided to buy it. The cottage looked abandoned. He planned to use it as a quiet weekend place. One evening, while walking through the hallway, he noticed a strange shape on the floor. Curious, he pulled back the worn carpet and saw a rusty hatch. His heart started beating faster. He bent down, forced it open, and slowly lifted it up. A cool breeze came from below. Inside was a narrow staircase going down into the dark. He stopped for a moment, holding his breath. Then he stepped inside to see where it led. What he saw left him speechless. Arthur's hand shook slightly as he gripped the torch and aimed it down the steep stone steps. The light cut through the darkness just enough to show the bottom, where a small wooden door stood waiting. The air was damp, and every breath he took carried the taste of earth and age. Slowly he made his way down, one careful step at a time, the torch beam trembling across the rough walls. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint echo of his footsteps. By the time he reached the door, his heart was pounding so loudly it felt like the whole cellar could hear it. He hesitated for a moment, his hand resting on the old iron handle. The wood was dry and cracked, but it still held firm after all these years. With a slow breath, Arthur pulled the door open. The hinges squealed loudly, and the sound bounced off the stone walls like a warning. He lifted the torch, expecting to see nothing more than an empty cellar, but as the beam swept across the room, his jaw dropped. The chamber was much larger than he had imagined. Rows of shelves lined every wall, stretching from the damp stone floor to the ceiling. Each shelf was packed tight with objects covered in dust, some wrapped in faded cloth, others stacked carelessly on top of each other. The smell was strong now, a mix of old wood, rusted metal, and something faintly sweet, like paper left too long in the sun. Arthur stepped inside slowly, his torchlight revealing more of the strange collection. On the first shelf, he saw wooden boxes carved with strange designs. Some looked like symbols, others like letters from a language he didn't recognize. He brushed the dust off one and gently lifted the lid. Inside were bundles of yellowed letters tied together with string. The paper was brittle, and the ink had faded, but he could still make out names and dates. Some of them were over 100 years old. Arthur's mouth went dry. He realized he wasn't just looking at junk. This was history hidden beneath his cottage. He moved to the next shelf, where stacks of books leaned dangerously against one another. Their leather covers were cracked, their pages edged with gold. He picked one up and opened it carefully. Inside, the handwriting was neat and precise, written in a language he couldn't read. He closed it quickly, afraid the pages would crumble in his hands. He placed it back on the shelf, his torch beam moving slowly across the room. In the corner, something glinted. Arthur crouched down and pulled away a piece of cloth. Beneath it was a small chest, its metal edges rusted but still intact. He tugged at the latch, and with a bit of force, it popped open. Inside were silver coins, dull with age but still shining faintly in the light. His breath caught. He reached in and picked one up. The surface was stamped with a crest he had never seen before. It felt heavy in his palm, solid, real. He put it back and quickly closed the chest, his hands trembling. Arthur leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. He had only bought the cottage for $2,000, thinking it was nothing more than a quiet retreat. Yet beneath its floor was a secret that could change everything. But he needed to be sure. He couldn't trust his own eyes. He had to know exactly what he was standing in the middle of. The next morning, Arthur drove into the nearest town. He asked around for someone who knew about old houses and antiques. Finally, he was given the name of a retired historian named Dr. Wilson, who lived just a few miles away. When Arthur explained what he had found, Wilson raised his eyebrows but agreed to come see it for himself. When they returned to the cottage, Arthur led him down the hatch and into the hidden chamber. As soon as Dr. Wilson's eyes adjusted to the dim torchlight, his mouth fell open. He walked slowly through the room, his fingers brushing lightly over the books and boxes. He bent down and opened one of the bundles of letters, scanning the faded ink. Then he turned to Arthur, his voice barely above a whisper. This is remarkable," he said. "Do you realize what you found?" Arthur shook his head. "I thought it was just an old storage room. I don't know what any of this is." Dr. Wilson picked up one of the books and carefully opened it. His eyes widened. "This is from the 18th century, handwritten. Do you see this signature here?" This was a well-known local scholar. Some of his work was thought to be lost forever. And these coins, he crouched by the chest, lifting one gently. These could be from the early 1800s, possibly even earlier. The entire room is like a time capsule. Arthur felt his knees weaken. He had known it was something unusual, but hearing the historian confirm it made his head spin. "So, are they worth anything?" Dr. Wilson gave him a small, almost disbelieving laugh. "Worth anything? Arthur, this collection could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more depending on what else is here. Some of these manuscripts might be unique, the only ones of their kind left in existence." Arthur swallowed hard, gripping the edge of a shelf to steady himself. He had never expected this. He thought he had bought an old abandoned cottage. Instead, he had stumbled upon a treasure trove, hidden beneath his feet. Over the next few weeks, word began to spread. More experts came to the cottage, each one leaving more astonished than the last. Archivists carefully documented the letters, reading names and dates that told stories of families long gone. Scholars examined the books, some of which were so rare that museums sent representatives to make offers. Collectors came forward, eager to buy the coins, the manuscripts, even the carved boxes that held them. Each time someone gave Arthur a number, he felt his chest tighten. The value of the collection climbed higher and higher, until finally, one appraisal estimated the entire find at over. Arthur sat in his kitchen that night, staring at the hatch in the floor, barely able to believe his luck. He had paid just $2,000 for the cottage, and now he was sitting on something that could change his life forever. But money wasn't the only thing on his mind. As he walked through the hidden room at night, torch in hand, he felt something deeper. These weren't just objects to be sold. They were pieces of history. Every book, every letter, every coin had once belonged to someone. They were fragments of lives long past, and Arthur felt a strange responsibility to protect them. So he made a decision. He would sell enough to secure his future and renovate the cottage. But he would keep the most important pieces safe. He worked with museums to loan out manuscripts for exhibitions. He allowed historians to study the letters, piecing together stories that had been hidden for centuries. And he kept the chest of coins locked away, a reminder of the day his life changed forever. The cottage, once broken and forgotten, became warm and welcoming. Arthur restored the stone walls, repaired the roof, and filled it with light. On weekends, he sat in the little living room with a cup of tea, knowing that beneath his feet lay the secret that had transformed his life. What began as a simple purchase for peace and quiet had given him something far greater, a chance to hold history in his hands. And as he looked out at the countryside, the torchlight from the hatch faintly glowing below, Arthur knew one thing for certain: sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden where no one expects them.